This video is a resource for professionals who work with vulnerable families and children. It explores the benefits of working together and collaborating across the service continuum. The people who feature are workers and managers from local government, schools and community service agencies. The setting is a workshop sponsored by Communities for Children in the City of Hume. 3 partner organisations collaborated to present the workshop, including Lentara Uniting Care Broadmeadows, Berry Street and the Victorian Cooperative on Children's Services for Ethnic Groups, better known as VICSEG New Futures. The workshop covered topics such as supporting migrant and refugee families, sharing information, respecting privacy and protecting women and children from the negative impacts of family violence. A highlight was the launch of the Hume Pathways project report prepared by the Murdoch Children's Research Institute. Family-centred practice involves building pathways to collaboration at a local level. Working together is an effective way of developing good practice models and identifying roadblocks to collaboration. Professor Frank Oberclade, founding director of the Centre for Community Child Health, explains that existing services to young children and families can be refocused and better coordinated to improve outcomes.
Gaps between the development of advantaged and disadvantaged children open up very early, and they just continue to widen in terms of their health, their well-being, and indeed their future productivity. If we want to work towards improving the foundations for all children, then researchers and policymakers and service providers are taking action to ensure that services for families and children are more coordinated and better integrated. If we do this, then it's likely to help make these services accessible to the people who need them the most. If we are to increase integration and coordination in those services, then we really require partnerships, new partnerships, and we need to work right across the whole service system and the system continuum. You know, in this country we've made pretty significant progress towards providing a better foundation for all children. We've had some good policy in recent years. We've got a national quality framework, which is a really important first step to ensuring that all children get the best start. But gee, there's still so much more that we can do. One of the best things that we should do in the future is to begin to target our efforts in the years before a child goes to school, because they're really important years. And if we do that, that'll help us provide all children with the best start in life. It's really important that we start to think of the money we spend on early childhood services as an investment rather than a cost. Because if we don't invest in those early years, then the long-term economic and social consequences are extraordinarily high.
The chairperson of the Hume Early Years Partnership is VICSEG Executive Director John Zika. John is a strong advocate for government and community investment in services and programs that improve the safety, well-being and healthy development of children.
There's a growing concern in the community about the increase in family violence. A range of service responses are needed to improve the safety and well-being of all children. In situations where children are exposed to family violence, the earlier services can respond, the better the chance of supporting the impact on the mother-child relationships. Research demonstrates the negative impact on the child's brain when exposed to family violence. It's therefore critical that specialist family violence services work collaboratively with universal services to build capacity and knowledge in local communities. Connecting families with supports they need, preferably within their own local setting, is the most effective way of empowering women and helping to strengthen their support networks.
The Communities for Children program across Australia has been very effective in supporting local communities to develop innovative approaches to local issues through partnership and collaboration. The approach taken in Hume is pathways that help to create a more efficient and seamless journey for families through the service system.
Place-based approaches are proving to be a very effective way to improve collaboration and partnership. It also allows families and services to have a role in designing services for the local community. For example, the City of Hume in the northern suburbs of Melbourne has a history of collaboration and service integration. Most families are vulnerable in one way or another at one time or another. And the aim is to ensure that families receive the services and support that they need at the times of their vulnerability. The interesting thing from a services point of view is that vulnerability is defined quite differently according to the service provided. So, for example, family violence services might have one definition of vulnerability and child protection services have a different definition of vulnerability, even though it is likely that families who have a vulnerability to family violence also have a need for protection of children in that family. Collaboration and integration of services is work. It requires strong local knowledge, flexibility. It also requires resources. Those resources are needed for ongoing professional development and for the development and maintenance of strong local networks between professionals. Once those strong local networks and relationships are established, they are able to better assist families to access the services that they need. Good, strong local relationships can also help families overcome shame and stigma that may be associated with accessing services such as family support and family violence services.
In Hume, the collaborative style of community agencies working together to support vulnerable families is guided by over 10 years of partnering with local government, Best Start and Communities for Children.
One of the great joys for me personally, and obviously from today's presentation, is the way in which we have all worked together to share and being open to one another, and the way in which our experiences have fused together to support our families. Family-centred practice with diverse communities. A particular example of the way existing mainstream theory can be modified and applied to Mays's work is in our consciously using the family-centred approach. Many of us here, I know, would be very familiar with family-centred approach. We know, for example, that it is an approach that respects family values and preferences, that it affirms the establishment of mutually trusting partnerships with families, that it bases its services in family priorities, and it builds on family strengths and competencies.
We see family violence as an attack on the mother-child relationship, and that attack on the mother-child relationship is incredibly detrimental to children because the mother is the primary developmental resource for children, and the ability to parent the way you want to is undermined by violence. Research in Australia, UK and US, where there is a lot of research done, that we know that child abuse, direct child abuse to children, physical assault of children, sexual assault of children, actually often occurs in the context of family violence. We know of the women who, on the ABS, that's the Australian Bureau of Statistics Safety Survey, who have actually said that they've experienced family violence. Of those women who've experienced family violence, 36% of them have said that that violence commenced when they were pregnant, that physical assaults happen. So pregnancy is a high risk time. And for that reason, a lot of different services have started to just incorporate routine asking about how things are at home and giving people information about family violence services during that period of pregnancy. And it's probably a good thing to think about whether or not that's an option for you to actually just say, we're going to tell you about some of the services in Hume, and one of them that we tell everyone about is also family violence.
Services should also aspire to be more inclusive of vulnerable families and children from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. Bicultural workers can help improve the cultural responsiveness of services.
My role is to work with Melanie and Linda from the enhanced maternal health and child nurse service to develop and provide a new mothers group from Turkish background with the support services available for them and for their children through May's WISEC.
I started work for WISEC 2011. I labor leader from February 2013. I start work by culture liaison. This means working with new family arrival or family not engaged in Australia culture, or introduce to them with the new home services like maternal health checks and labor community education.
As a childcare educator, I currently work in the baby's room of the centre. The leader of the group is a very experienced and fantastic carer. However, she is challenged in reading and writing English. We need to always work to make parents' job easier and not harder.
Newly arrived families struggles a lot, both physically and mentally, to adapt themselves in this diverse and highly developed society. Their beliefs, ethics and values needs to be adjusted to have a peaceful and normal life in this country. In doing this, they need support and guidance from the community, and that's where my role as a bicultural liaison comes to life.
Cultural competency training is beneficial for service providers at all service levels and helps build an understanding of how to view family practice through a cultural lens.
We're hoping through local solutions and collaboration with other agencies in Hume that the bicultural team will be able to actually provide some individual assistance to women who are transitioning from home to training and work.
As we mentioned, part of the workshop included the launch of the Hume Pathways Report. This research examines referral pathways between primary, secondary and tertiary services and provides an evidence base to strengthen integration between early years, family support and child protection services.
I'm here today very proudly to launch the Hume Pathways Report. This is a research project that we started with what was then known as Broadmeadows United Care, it's now Lentara. In 2010, it was finally completed in 2012, and I think that you would call this a real collaboration.
What sort of service model, policy or development framework do you think that this has possibilities of influencing?
The report is directed at the local area, and the report very strongly emphasises a progressive universalism in respect of the way that services are provided and in respect of the way children and families are understood, that all families have some needs that are similar and all families have the possibility and in fact the likelihood to come in and out of vulnerability through the life course. Having said that, it's very much framed in respect of a more statewide and federal perspective, and taking those things into account are incredibly important for the way that services are organised.
Whilst integration is a growing feature of established service systems, professionals need to continuously strive to create clearer, more seamless and responsive referral pathways across all layers of service delivery.
A new person in a role like myself, and it takes a little while to get to know everybody and know the position, build relationships, partnerships.
Absolutely, so it's that moving in and out of different roles. And one of the greatest barriers that the UCD project brought up was around that knowing other people's roles and responsibilities. So early years people actually really understanding what family support workers do and what is their capacity, and working back the other way.
We recognise that
there are all sorts of silos. And going back to the beginning this morning when we talked about including us all, that what we're trying to do is build a system or an infrastructure for families in Hume and elsewhere that does absolutely include everybody.